Awesome. Yeah, I feel like when we were planning for creative last year, it was always, okay, here's the static trends, here's what people are doing. And this year it's, okay, take all of the best UGC that you have from the year, all of the best creator content, and see how you can add promo overlay or start to add, gift messaging or Santa hats or mistletoe to the overlay to make it holiday.
Truly wild how it does. Like, there is no end in sight to it starts earlier every year. Like, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like, it even goes back to, right? Like, Black Friday used to just be like in store,
Mhm.
started at like normal store opening time, and then it
Mhm.
crept back. Like, I remember probably being in my teenage years and like going to Target at 2 in the morning. And I will be honest, after that first experience, was not worth it to like, I think I ended up finding one or two things and I ended up standing in line for an hour for like a decent discount, but it was that moment where I was like, was that discount really worth the time?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, the promotions themselves have extended out to weeks
Mhm.
long now.
Mhm.
And there's so many pre-teasers now of promotions, right? They start launching it as early as like November 1, like Black Friday
Mhm.
preview sales and things like that, which means like now all the kind of ramp up to that is in October, which is wild
Yep.
to believe.
There's also Christmas in July, which I just
Yep.
Yep.
bought some stuff for actually. Um,
Totally.
but anyway, I'd like to welcome everyone to our webinar, What's Actually Working in E-commerce Paid Social. We'd love to know where you're zooming in from, what your title is, what you're hoping to learn from this webinar. I see a number of you are arriving. Um, what's the last thing, Megan, you bought for like a Black Friday holiday deal?
That is such a good question. I'm the type of person where I get my brother and my dad the same thing in a different color every year. So usually it's like some sort of golf situation, whether it's like a quarter zip or a polo or some sort of new golf thing. So probably that from Built or Cuts or Travis Matthew.
Love that. Welcome, Christian. Hi, Katie. We've got Missouri, Dallas, Texas.
Fellow Texan, I'm based out of Fort Worth. So hi, Christian, from the other side of the DFW Metroplex.
Um, Justina, Madison, and Maria, Delaware North, based in Buffalo. I'm from Ithaca, New York. Justina.
Anna wins for distance right now,
Oh,
coming from
Ireland.
Ireland.
How cool. Calgary, more Texas. Ireland again. Um, Let me just jump into a little about what you're going to learn. So over the next hour, we'll dig into the creative formats converting best right now, how TikTok is driving full funnel growth, what's working on Meta, and where budget is getting wasted. Welcome, Teddy. You'll also hear how Meta's AI ranks ads and how to fix misaligned creative that's holding campaigns back. Joining us are two of GoFish's digital leaders in paid social. We've got Lauren Lister, the SVP of social media. She has over a decade of experience in performance marketing and has led high-performing teams delivering full funnel activations with innovative, data-driven strategies and is known for staying ahead of the trends that drive growth. Lauren, if you could just click through to the next slide so we could see your lovely faces. And then we've got Megan Houston, who's managing partner, VP of digital marketing strategy. She spent the past 5 years developing strategies that consistently fuel client success. She leads teams responsible for client deliverables and partners directly with some of our largest accounts, and she's always keeping performance at the center of her work. She's super amazing. So with that, Lauren, let's jump in. I'll hand it over to you to kick things off.
Perfect. So yes, first and foremost, before we dive into today's content, I know I saw it being teased in the chat. So for anyone who is in the Northeast or anyone who might be in the New York area come mid, or I guess really late September, we're really excited that we are partnering with TikTok to be hosting an event at their offices. So that is going to be on September 24th from 1 to 6 p.m. It's going to be a really great program. We're going to have an opportunity to sit down, kind of do some panel-led discussions in regards to what is going on in terms of best performance, how to prep ahead for the holiday season, what is on TikTok's roadmap in terms of where they're investing their efforts and where they're kind of seeing the trends start to shift on the platform. We know it's been kind of an ever-changing landscape there, and it's been really exciting to see. In addition to that, we'll also just have some really great opportunities for everyone to get to talk, to get to network with us, with other groups that are joining. We've got some really great brands that are already signed up. And then we'll be hosting a happy hour as well. So just a really great opportunity to both learn, network, and get to hang out together in New York. So if you're in the area or you're going to be in the area, please scan that QR code and register to join us.
I also just want to call out that we have a couple people zooming in from Nigeria, which is absolutely amazing, and the Netherlands. Very cool.
Wow. We are truly an international crew today. I love it. Awesome. So as we jump into the content, before we get in, I really just kind of want to set the stage for what we're talking about. I know we teed it up at the top, but in case you missed that brief intro, what we really wanted to talk about today is understanding what is working in the e-commerce space, particularly on Meta and on TikTok. And we know it because right now, a lot of brands are reporting some downtrend in performance. Over 60% of brands are saying that they're saying social performance slipping. And we know that there is a lot of change, like we're just talking about that TikTok roadmap, understanding what's going on. It is incredibly fast moving in the social landscape right now. So, what are brands doing differently to stay on top of it? How is creative really leading the way? And how can we get some quick fixes in place ahead of Q4? We know that, if you're here for e-commerce, we know that Q4 is probably one of the most critical time periods for your brand. So how can we at least help you get some quick fixes in place so that you can be set up for success heading into that period? And really all of that is shaped again by the kind of changing infrastructure of those platforms. So we'll talk a little bit on the technical, we'll talk a little bit on the strategy, and hopefully bring it all together so that you can have a better understanding of how you can approach paid social with your across the different platforms. And if you need it, how we might be able to partner with you on that. So the first thing we want to do to kick things off is just to get a better understanding of this group and where you're currently investing your media dollars. Obviously, there are a lot of paid social platforms out there, but today's focus is on Meta and TikTok, at least for the course of this presentation. So wanting to understand where you guys are currently spending your time and effort so we might learn a bit more and kind of tailor the presentation to you guys. Okay, we're having quite a few results come in. Okay, this is great. It's rapidly changing. I'm not necessarily surprised. Meta right now is the leader. Just by longevity, I'm not surprised to see that in the sense that we have had Meta kind of be a stronghold, a full funnel functionality. But I'm actually really excited to see that a lot of brands are also on both. So that's really great to see. We know that they really do work together in tandem. Different, users are on each one and they're consuming content differently on each of those platforms. So they really do have their own identity in place in your media strategy. And so I'm really excited to get the opportunity to dive into that. So what we want to talk about is, like I said, starting with the reality of the situation is that many brands are feeling that slip in performance right now. We're seeing rising costs, tracking over the course of this point, the last 5 years has become increasingly more difficult with privacy regulations, and the platforms are having to change incredibly quick to keep up with that as well. And it does make it hard for marketing teams to adapt. And so the truth is, honestly, even really sophisticated advertisers can struggle to keep up. And so what we wanted to do is take a look at what in the landscape is changing and also what the brands that are succeeding, what they're doing differently. And so one of the first things that we've really seen in particular is Meta's shift towards AI. Meta is not the only one that's done this, but they are probably the one I would say that is leading a lot of the trends in terms of their push towards AI. So in the past, and again, I'm talking probably even 3 to 5 years ago, again, this trend really started to shift. But in the past, Meta was all about control, right? We were able to lean on incredibly granular targeting. We were deep slicing by demographics, by interest, by behavioral. We were building lookalikes off of seed lists. We were kind of trying to find any which way that we could split audiences, and that was reflected in our account structures. We had so many ad sets because we wanted to see the performance of each individual audience and understand how that was impacting the overall business and be able to build off of that. So in a lot of ways, Meta was providing the inputs as to how different audiences were responding. And at that point, measurement was pretty clear and straightforward, even if a little bit imperfect. Last click, I won't lie, is not my favorite model. But given the data signals that were in place, it was pretty straightforward. It was deterministic. And so it was a pretty easy way, if not perfect again, to see into how your media dollars were performing for you. And so really, like I said, it was gave advertisers a sense of control, but it was fragile. And we saw that as privacy regulations have tightened, that model started to break. And that led us to where we are today. And that is the shift towards AI and kind of an AI powered model on these advertising platforms. So again, for Meta in particular, what their message is, stop trying to over control, focus on the right signals, and the rest will come into play. So targeting is now broader. We're now using things like Advantage Plus to allow their AI system to basically read the behavioral patterns of the users to decide who is the most, who has the highest intent in terms of the user base. And creative is now the lever that we can actually control to target. And so we're looking at a lot of relevance there. With that, account structure has also consolidated, right? Again, those Advantage Plus campaigns are reigning. We are using automatic placements. We are just allowing the creative to flow across any placement, across a broad audience, and again, really allowing the algorithm to decide both to one, be able to use and take advantage of the signals that the algorithm's receiving from different sources, as well as leaning into the efficiency that comes with a broader approach. And on measurement, that is probably one of the biggest changes as well. Again, talking about privacy regulations, we've really had to move into a world of modeled attribution. It's not necessarily about perfect clarity anymore. It's now about directional trust. It's supplemented by new and different KPIs, looking at things like your marketing efficiency ratio, your customer lifetime value. It's not just about that direct platform level ROI that is going to be deterministic of success. So, all that being said, it's very clear to see that the game has shifted, right? We are looking at media completely differently than we used to. We're planning differently, we're buying differently, we're measuring differently. And so what we need to do is also change our approach.
Yeah. So like Lauren said, I think what the most successful clients are doing right now that most aren't is leaning into the algorithm, right? So we know that the controls that we have are not just ad sets and, like Lauren said, deep slicing into audiences and trying to segment the crap out of our meta campaigns. It's really content is our major lever. So test your creative, run partnerships with and without handles, compare value props like does free shipping, ready to ship today, or 2-day shipping work better? For new customer acquisition, if you offer a discount versus a free sample, what converts at a higher rate? Try to understand what really resonates with the audience you're trying to target instead of focusing on targeting that audience so perfectly. Meta is going to find the right people for you as long as your creative is ready to convert them when they see it. So next thing on TikTok, definitely use GMV Max to try to auto test affiliate content. That's a great way to quickly understand what creators work hardest for you and what scripts, formats, and hooks work well also. And then you can sort of use that content to understand how to brief in the next round of affiliate or creator content, right? Knowing what works and testing it in paid media to help inform your affiliate strategy. Also, lean into platform automation. We learned this lesson the hard way 2 years ago with Performance Max on the Google side. When you try to resist, it doesn't work. And so I think leaning into automation is really key here, right? Lean into ASC Plus, test it, use it to help understand what creative works really quickly. Allow it to focus either more on retargeting, more on new customers. We have at least that lever to tell Meta, okay, I want to target more new or I want to target more retargeting. And also refresh your creative. Like we said, test new things, but also try to understand what your existing customers want to hear from you as well, right? You're not only reaching new customers, so existing customers want to hear about the new products that you're releasing. They want to hear about the upcoming collections. They want to be involved with the launch. So that said, balance your media mix, right? You can't do 100% acquisition on Meta and think that everyone's just going to convert on the first touch, right? There has to be some warmth to that. So know what you're going after new customers with, and that creative and messaging should differ to someone who's already been to your site. They've already browsed your products. They may know a little bit more about you. So your message to that person can be a little bit more personalized than just introducing the brand to someone who's cold for the first time. So segment those there. And also think full funnel. Focus on building awareness and demand, not just on conversions. There are different optimization goals in Meta for that reason. For upper funnel, you can target those who viewed 75% or more of your video to get a slightly warmer audience. You can target those who have never been to the site before. And we'll go through some do's and don'ts later, some common pitfalls that we see, but this is certainly one of them, not having exclusions in your audiences and not having segmented audiences and messaging. Cool. So with that, talk to us about what your biggest challenge is with paid social. Are you feeling a lack of creative resources? You can't do that type of creative testing. Are you seeing rising CPMs like a lot of our clients are? Do you have poor tracking or reporting, not really understanding how Meta is impacting your bottom line? Is Advantage Plus just throwing you for a total loop? Are you not seeing efficient growth? Or like some folks who we work with, all of the above? Okay, cool. Definitely seeing Advantage Plus throwing some people for a loop. That makes sense. We expect that, right? When ad platforms evolve with AI, it's hard to know how to adjust, but I think really leaning in and testing it tends to be the key. Of course, paired with some trusted KPIs that you know how to understand the results. All right, cool. Looks like the responses are slowing in, so we can end the poll and I'll share out these results. It really seems like lack of creative resources, I think, is something that a lot of teams struggle with. Our most successful clients, I will say, are partnering with creators using affiliate and others to get content in the door. And then you can chop, cut, splice, add that content with promotional overlay or seasonal imagery to try to get more creative and more bang for your buck. So I'll definitely say I think affiliate marketing or content strategy is something that Lauren can speak to a little bit further later, but that sort of fills that gap.
Perfect. Awesome. So, to Megan's point, obviously there are a lot of different ways that paid social can challenge you, right? There's a lot of different nuances going on in the market when you're talking about creative, when you're talking about the actual functionality of the platform and the algorithm itself, and when you then dive into measurement as well. So, we'll talk about this a bit more later at the end as well, but want to get ready. If you're not sure what to do, or if you're going through this presentation and you're like, the content's great, I understand where the problems are. How do I solve them? We're going to be offering a free audit to those who are attending today if they are interested, where myself personally, my team, we will get into your ad accounts. We will take a look at the media that you're running. We can help you identify what's working, what's not, and what different approaches that you might want to take instead in order to improve your performance. And we can help you get that done ahead of the holiday season. Perfect. So we talked about Meta a little bit, right? We kind of teed it off there in terms of talking about how the algorithm is changing. But we do know that TikTok, quite frankly, is a pretty tough nut to crack as well. I saw to that point, one of the, top limitations is creative resources. And we recognize that TikTok is incredibly unique in that they have a very different creative formula than Meta, right? Than your Facebook and your Instagram efforts. A lot of times those can be a little bit more easily adapted to even other platforms such as Pinterest or Snapchat, but TikTok, it's all video, it's all engagement, it's all entertainment, right? So we want to talk about what's working on TikTok and how the platform has actually evolved to become more than just a top of funnel play, right? It is truly evolved into a full funnel platform. And it's not just sparking awareness or engagement, it is driving purchases, it's driving lifetime value, and really they have built out a complete commerce ecosystem. So it's really exciting. So as we jump into that, we really want to take a look at first, how is TikTok built? And really it is built for full funnel growth. So what makes TikTok unique is how its ad formats are designed to be seamless. Nearly all of them do live within that For You page functionality, right? That algorithm that knows you better than your best friend does in terms of what it is that you're wanting to watch, what type of content that it is that you're engaging with, and bringing that to the front. So TikTok's really all about discovery, right? You talk about platforms like Meta, and a lot of what you see on Facebook and Instagram are those that you follow. The flip side, TikTok on the For You page, it's all about discovery of creators or brands that you maybe don't know. And so really what we want to do is be able to use all these different ad formats in a slightly different way. So ranging from just your traditional video ads to something that is a little bit more search centric, right? I'm sure you've heard the buzzword, the convergence of search and social, and it is true. People are now searching on social platforms as much as they're searching on Google. And it's really interesting to see how that user behavior is changing and how, again, like we were just even talking about, commerce within the social platforms is changing, that it truly is a closed ecosystem where someone from discovery to purchase can exist within TikTok without ever leaving the platform. So when we're looking at this, we want to talk about kind of the different funnel areas, right? Because it is truly full funnel. So we have those top of funnel efforts. The objective is clear, right? We're talking about reach. We're talking about awareness. And TikTok does truly excel here. I'd say this is probably one of the first areas that they did tackle and tackle well when they first came out and really started to scale, especially in the US. And so what we're talking about here is we're talking about creating content that is going to be focused on entertaining. We're meeting trends where they're at. It's lo-fi, not hi-fi. So it's actually not that scary to create. UGC style content reigns. It wants to feel native and exciting. And really what we're going to be tracking against this is impressions. We're going to be looking at efficiency of that reach, so our CPM. And as Megan was talking about earlier, we're going to be looking at video completion rates, things like follower growth. I know we've seen some questions regarding organic too. And that is where some of these types of efforts really come into play, right? Is more so building that relationship and building that emotional connection with the brand itself. And so what the secret really is here is blending in. You don't want your ads to feel like ads. They should feel like content that a user would have just stumbled upon natively from a creator or brand authentically and be able to watch that through. And so where we dive into next then, of course, is the mid-funnel. And this is where TikTok really shines as it relates to product education and really starting to drive or create that intent. So when we're talking about creative that works here, we're talking about product demos, we're talking about tutorials, partnering with creators to do unboxing, to do reviews, anything that really lets your customers start to see your product in action. It's a framing of problem versus solution and really just kind of get someone intrigued where, maybe if they weren't in market in that moment, they might be in market now because you've convinced them to really start to think about it. And so when we're talking about this, we're going to be looking at click-through rates, either to your web traffic site, if that is where you're directing traffic. Obviously, again, TikTok has a huge commerce presence within the platform. And so we'll just be looking at general engagement as a whole. And so at this stage, it's all about clarity and helping to educate the consumer about your brand. And really, if we do that and we do those first two stages well, they will naturally fall into this third bucket, right? Which is that traditional lower funnel, bottom of funnel, where we're really talking about conversion. And when we're talking about e-commerce, we're talking about sales. And so to move to this bottom of the funnel, that is where we are really going to be focusing, right, on conversions, sales, subscriptions, even starting to get into retention plays, right? We're talking about loyalty and lifetime value. We're going to be focusing on our conversion rate. We're going to be looking at our cost per acquisition. We're going to look at ROAS. But then again, we're going to want to take a step back and we're going to want to look and understand the kind of halo effect that it has on the overall business too, right? We don't want to get too suckered into just that platform only view, but also the holistic impact that it has on the business. And so when we're getting down to this level, this is where we dive even more into some of that kind of product level creative, right? We're going to be doing a clear showcase of products, a very clear call to action. We want them to buy. We want them to purchase. We may include promotional messaging to drive some urgency. Spark ads, if you're not familiar with those, are essentially the boosting of organic content, whether your own or whether a creator that you might be partnering with. That's a really great way to get content into this phase. Or this is again where we start to lean into things like TikTok affiliate marketing, live shopping efforts, things that are going to help to drive that urgency and really where we close the loop. And this is kind of that final solution of where that entertainment meets commerce and where we want to bring those things together.
Lauren, we have a couple of
Yeah,
questions in the chat.
for sure.
So one question, would it make sense to use TikTok mainly for new customers and focus on retargeting on Meta and Google ads?
So I would say no. I do still think that TikTok is a great, well, one, it is a great place, right? You are correct. For new customers, it's absolutely a strong spot because again, it is where someone is primed to engage with brands or creators they don't know because that's just the nature of the platform. But it is also an incredibly strong platform for returning customers because it is one that, because it is entertainment driven, you're going to be providing a value that is not just, for example, a DPA on Facebook. I love them, don't get me wrong, they're highly effective. They're not the most engaging or entertaining. And if I'm not in market, I'm probably going to scroll right past it because I know I don't need to shop. TikTok provides an avenue for entertainment and for that relationship building that is going to keep you top of mind for when that customer is ready to repurchase, or it's just going to strengthen those ties in terms of customer loyalty that are going to increase that lifetime value.
Awesome. And then there's one more I want to call out. Would it make sense to use TikTok? Oh, I'm sorry. Does TikTok have a connection with BigCommerce so SKUs show up on TikTok Shop and also orders flow through easily for order fulfillment?
Yeah, so they do have a lot of different options for setting up your shop on TikTok, and that is something that we can always help with as well. They do have a lot of API connections and things like that, which make it pretty seamless to load in your product feed. There are some connections to shop thing, like such as Shopify, things like that. But also, if you are able to produce a feed on Meta, a lot of clients, right, already have things like Instagram checkout set up, things like that. The process is decently seamless between the two. You'll find that a lot of the things that you need in order to power those kind of shopping capabilities on Meta are going to be a lot of the same things that you need to set it up on TikTok.
And there is actually a TikTok app within the BigCommerce app marketplace. So that should, similarly to the Google app or the Meta app, like you have on Shopify or BigCommerce, that should sync your catalog pretty seamlessly.
Thank you both.
Of course. Perfect. So when we are talking about media mix, budget consideration, right? I joked earlier, we're talking about Meta and TikTok today, but we do recognize and respect that the social landscape is incredibly large. There's a lot of other platforms out there vying for dollars. And there are also your other marketing efforts, right? Google, heavy hitter. We all know them. So the question is, how do you then make TikTok fit within your broader paid social and quite frankly, paid media strategy? So the first is going to be focused on positioning. TikTok does complement Meta beautifully. Again, kind of just how we were talking about, should we do it just for new customer acquisition? Where do we keep retargeting? They do really work well together, right? As I mentioned earlier, Meta is 100% a powerhouse. They have great scale, great optimization, probably just due to their longevity and incredibly sophisticated method, right? They're probably one of the heaviest hitters in terms of using AI to power their algorithm. But TikTok really does add this kind of layer of incremental discovery. It is increasingly becoming a place where people shop and think about conversions because of their effort and their investment into their TikTok shop product and that tool. That people are really starting to reposition their mindset about it. So it's also about how you position your brand on the platform. When it comes to budgeting, right? So how much do you need to be spending? We traditionally recommend always maintaining a test budget of approximately 10 to 15%. It's a great way to kind of dip your toe in. It's not sacrificing too much spend in case it doesn't work or in case your first approach at testing it doesn't work. I will always say, if your first attempt on TikTok does not succeed, please do not think that TikTok is not working. It is incredibly nuanced, right? When it comes to creative, when it comes to product and positioning, that does not mean that TikTok is not a right fit. It just means that you might need to tweak your approach to it ever so slightly. And really, that is where creative comes into play, right? It's the non-negotiable, if you will. TikTok requires a unique creative variance that does not exist necessarily on all the other platforms. And it does require more volume than some of the other platforms. We tell people to plan for at least 5 to 10 new creative variations per month, quite honestly, if not more, especially if you are leveraging like an affiliate program or something like that. We have clients that are getting hundreds of videos that they're putting into the space, right? And to Megan's earlier point, letting a tool like GMV Max really parse through that creative for you at scale and amplify what's working and slowly push away what's not. So there are ways that you can scale creative without it also becoming overwhelming to manage. It just all that to say, it's not a platform where you can just drop in one hero video and let it run. This is where freshness wins, especially at the rate and the time that people are spending in platform. Consumption of content is incredibly large on the platform. So yeah, I'm really excited to chat about TikTok. I think it is a great opportunity. And so it's not just a top of funnel play. Again, it truly is a full funnel play, and quite frankly, is actually becoming one of the heaviest hitters in the e-commerce space, especially if you can get a TikTok shop up and running. That closed ecosystem is incredibly unique to, quite frankly, any social platform, as deep as it is and as strong as it is. So I'm really excited about the future of TikTok. I really love getting our brands invested there. But like I said, Meta is still one of those heavy hitters out there. They have the longevity. So I'm really excited to hand it over to Megan to talk a little bit more about that.
Great, love it. So like Lauren mentioned, we see a ton of accounts. She called out that free audit earlier. We do a lot of those. And so something that we see often from those who we just start working with, some common pitfalls in accounts is, like Lauren mentioned earlier, over segmentation. Sort of like a resistance of the algorithm, as we like to call it. So if you're over segmenting your creative, relying solely on ad objectives to reach new customers and to get users to do what you're looking to do, you're sort of missing the point. Having a call to action within the video or on the creative itself, having the text overlay on the creative is really, really key. And if you just pop back to that earlier slide, I think just calling campaigns cold without excluding those who are not truly cold is also key. So if you're saying a campaign is net new customers, but there are no exclusions on that campaign, you're definitely not getting net new customers in that campaign. Meta's going to reach the warmest person possible. So if you don't explicitly exclude your email list, all of your site visitors, that campaign is not going to be cold. So something that we like to do, if we pop to the next slide, is segmenting with exclusions and keeping 3 really clean buckets for your ad campaign. So the first is totally cold. It excludes anyone that's ever visited your site, your page. In theory, they don't know about you. And then that second bucket is your first layer of remarketing. It's sort of like warm audiences, what we like to call new customer remarketing. It excludes all of your past purchasers, but it includes people who have visited your website. So these people could be those who spent the top 75% of time on your site in the last week or so. They could be people who browsed your website in the last, couple days, in the last 24 hours, depending on how large your audience is. And they're a little bit warmer. So when you segment that way, totally cold, new customer remarketing, and past purchasers, you can keep those exclusions clean. So then you can let TikTok and Meta's algorithms within those different buckets reward your customers with the creative that they want to see. So actively testing creative versus interest-based targeting is really key so that you can understand within that cold audience segment, okay, does a lookalike of my email list perform better? Does ASC Plus know who my audience is better than I do? And you can start to understand what content really resonates. And Meta will do the heavy lifting for you by showing that content to those who it thinks will resonate with it. So another common pitfall that we see is with that creative and content piece, right? A lot of you noted, hey, I just don't have the creative resources to succeed here or to have a really robust creative testing strategy. So some of the basics that we recommend is if you're only pushing branded creative to new customers, meaning, hey, this is my brand and it's 50% off for the next week, then you're probably missing the mark on making a really great first impression. Something that we see really now with a lot of our clients who are involved in affiliate programs or have a really great creator network is that they're letting creators speak to new customers on their behalf. So let your loyal customers, let your reviews, your user-generated content, or your creators talk to that net new audience for you, and then use that new customer remarketing segment to then introduce branded creative. Hey, we're Go Fish. We do XYZ really, really well, and here's why you should think about us. But that person has already heard about you from a different face and a different voice. So that's really key, I think, making sure that your creative and content is diversified, that you're letting other voices speak on behalf of the brand. And then that same note, refreshing content too slowly, right? If you're only introducing a new ad once a month or every other month, your content's probably really stale. And if you take a look at your frequency, that could get really scary, right? The same person could be seeing that ad 6 different times within a month, and it's just that exact same creative. So again, making sure you diversify your creative, not only just with having creator voices and also statics that you create on behalf of the brand, but making sure also that you're ready to ship new content consistently. And that can align with the different things that you're doing on your site, right? If you're launching a new product, if you're running a promotion, if you have a gift with purchase, or you're sampling for an upcoming launch, all of those are opportunities to introduce new creative into the funnel. Or if you get a new piece of affiliate content, all of those are great to introduce new trending content and find a new winner. So something that we know is to use Advantage Plus campaigns to quickly test those creative. We can use ASC Plus to allow Meta's algorithm to sort of tell us, hey, what do you think is going to work? And Meta will prioritize based on their algorithm and understanding of, okay, we think that this video creative is going to outperform, and so we're going to push that one. And then those that perform well in the ASC testing campaign, you can move those into your evergreen cold prospecting. So really key 3 tips here is letting creators introduce your brand, testing within ASC Plus, and then refreshing your content as frequently as you can. Cool. The last sort of pitfall that we see is we see that people treat ads as sort of individual conversion drivers. So I think that sort of relates to the question that we got earlier. What if we only do retargeting over here, or only do acquisition on this channel? Meta can do all of the above. And really, it's about testing to see what area of the funnel works best for you on each platform, right? So if you're only looking to convert, Meta might not be the best place for you, right? Maybe you want to invest a little bit more in Google. If you're looking for brand awareness, maybe you want to spend a little bit more in TikTok and invest some of that budget in Meta, but not all of it. So if you treat ads as only doing one thing, they're only going to drive conversion, they're not going to drive awareness for me, you may be missing an opportunity to give yourself more use out of each piece of creative. So if we jump to the next slide, some of the best players in this game are building full funnel momentum across different pieces of creative, knowing that the same ad that drives awareness for one audience could also convert your existing customers. So try to understand what the algorithm prioritizes and how customers react to each piece of content before you assume that it's only going to do one thing. Awesome. So tell us, how are you currently using TikTok for your brand? Are you only running top of funnel? Are you just doing retargeting? Are you only on shops, scaling aggressively? Let us know what you're working on TikTok, and if you're not running TikTok at all, and you don't think it's relevant to you, maybe you'll have learned today that it actually is.
It's always my favorite. It truly, TikTok truly has boomed. I know when it first started, I mean, I won't lie, right? I probably first heard about it pre-pandemic when like TikTok reps would come into the office and tout this new advertising platform. And I joked. I was like, oh, I'm too old for that. But let me tell you, the pandemic changed everything in terms of media consumption. And I won't age myself, but I am definitely a millennial and I am definitely a solid TikTok user. And I know many of my friends are as well.
Definitely. And it seems like most of this group too hasn't started yet. So this is an opportunity, I think, take some of the learnings from today and partner with a team or try it yourself and start getting some ads live just to see what results you can get early.
It's definitely one that requires a lot of testing because it is so unique. And so on that note, right, what we want to talk about at the top, which if you heard any of our conversations at the beginning, is Q4, obviously for e-commerce brands, is incredibly important. And we do know that that kind of benchmark in terms of when you need to start those efforts keeps moving up as well, right? Quite frankly, if you haven't started your Q4 conversations already, they probably should be happening in terms of understanding what your media strategy is going to be. What are your promotional calendars going to be? How are you going to be flighting your investment across that? And what is your creative going to look like? Because it will be here before you know it. And there are a lot of opportunities to go ahead and start setting the stage for that success now. And so what we do too is as we look ahead to Q4, the reality is that if there are small leaks in your strategy, those can quickly turn into lost revenue, especially as you likely start to kind of really run in your and up level your spend. Those small leaks are going to become a lot more apparent. So the goal right now is to help you guys find some ways to close off those leaks so you can have as successful of a Q4 as possible. These things are not going to be massive overhauls. They're optimizations that, day-to-day teams should be able to execute on fairly easily. And if not, like I said, that free audit will be able to help guide the way as well. And so with that, what are some high impact optimizations that teams can make this week? First and foremost is cleaning up that campaign structure, right? We talked about how AI is king and over segmentation is not the winning method anymore. So make sure you're not over fragmented, that you have too many ad sets or campaigns, that you're kind of cannibalizing your efforts and things aren't getting out of learning. Simplify it and you'll give the algorithm more room to optimize. And on top of that, make sure that you are, getting everything out of learning and that you're funding things in a way that will generate that success. Go ahead and conduct a creative audit. I think we've probably said the word creative about 500 times today so far, and that truly is because given all the changes within the platforms, creative is the strongest lever that you can pull in terms of generating performance. It is now how you are doing targeting. It is now how you are getting scale. That creative diversification is going to be so important to being able to reach different customers. If you only post one type of the same creative over and over again, you're only going to continue to reach the type of person that resonates or traditionally consumes that type of content, right? If you're just doing static in-feed ads, that person who is a Reels consumer is not going to be exposed to your brand. So that creative diversification or just even differential messaging is going to be how we reach those customers and understand what resonates. So make sure you're doing a full creative audit. In addition to auditing your creative, audit your audiences. Megan has touched on this one a few times, and it is so, so important to make sure that you do have your audience structure set up correctly. Make sure that you do have your prospecting audiences. Make sure that they are true prospecting. Make sure that you have those exclusions, right? Because again, to her point, the algorithm is going to go after the lowest hanging fruit and that lowest cost of conversion. And so if you have someone who's actually, someone who's already shown a lot of intent and it actually should be in the retargeting pool, your prospecting effort's going to go after them as well. So you're going to be missing out on that new customer acquisition. So make sure that you're not wasting spend and make sure that your dollars are actually working towards what you want them to do from an audience perspective. And last but not least, if you haven't started to test into the AI functionality, please, please do. Broad targeting, Advantage Plus audiences, being able to use, automatic placements, and you can customize still your creative by placement, make sure that 9:16 is showing in the story or the Reels placement and that 1:1 or that 4:5 is in feed. You still have that layer of control. But really more so allowing Meta the opportunity or TikTok the opportunity to show the ad when it thinks it's going to be most impactful in the place that it thinks is going to be most impactful. So those are just some high level optimizations that we can work on just even this week to get ahead of Q4. In regards to that targeting, right? I know we've talked about this. We are going to be broadening our audiences. Let AI optimize. But make sure, again, you're layering in that creative diversification as your real targeting lever. So we are talking about things like different types of ad units. We are talking about the messaging within it. AI and machine learning has really come a long way. It used to be that, Meta could really only understand the post copy, the headline. It could understand whether you were running a video or a static, and it used your brand to, understand what type of product you were selling. But like Meta's AI can actually encode the actual content now. It understands if a recipe is a quick meal at home, or it can understand if it's a healthy recipe or understand if it's a dessert. AI can basically watch the video, it encodes it in a technical way that understands the relevancy and the resonance of the actual creative and then uses that to target. So it's really interesting the way that technology has enhanced. And so that is why creative diversification is so important. There's also some really cool opportunities for contextual placements, right? I mentioned earlier, one of my favorite buzzwords for probably the last 2 years at this point has been the convergence of search and social. Especially as someone who's been in the social industry so long, it's been really fun to see how user behavior is changing. People aren't just searching on Google anymore. They are searching within the TikTok UI. They're going to be looking for videos that are reviews. They are going to be looking for your actual brand page. I know we've had some questions about organic content, and truly, organic content has kind of gone through this phase where it was incredibly prominent. It kind of did take a slump in terms of, in my opinion, the value that it brought a brand, and it is back on the upswing where organic is becoming more important because again, people are bringing the entire user experience, that entire customer journey, and living it within the platform itself. So whether, that is just them doing their research, having that organic presence is incredibly important because you want to make sure that your content is available and that you are bringing your own narrative to the conversation. And it's also incredibly important in kind of, again, closed ecosystems like TikTok, where if someone is actually going to purchase your product from the shop, instead, they're not going to your website. They're not getting that opportunity to explore your website as their kind of education and research. They're probably going to go to your profile instead and look around there. So organic is on the uprise again, because again, we are seeing social become the place where people are doing their entire search and functionality. One of my favorites too is like the increase of people that are still using Google to search, but then they're adding the word Reddit at the end because they want the Reddit results specifically. So it's been really fun to see that user behavior. So contextual targeting is incredibly exciting to play with, and I think you should definitely invest some dollars in trying to get into that space. Um, Creative refresh cycles, we've talked about this one. Creative goes fast these days. People are consuming media at a higher rate than ever. And as we all know, attention spans are dipping, unfortunately, as well. So make sure that you are refreshing that creative at minimum every 2 to 3 weeks, not every 2 to 3 months. Rotate your formats, look for signals like frequency. Megan talked about that earlier. We want to make sure we're not hitting the same person with the same message over and over again. There's something to be said about, once or twice to get in front of them, make sure the message sticks. After a certain period, though, if it didn't work then, it's not going to work now. Let's try something different. So there's some actual database KPIs that you can use to make those determinations as well. And then what we want to do too, attribution and reporting shifts. Personal opinion, I think a lot of people hold this in our world. Last click is dead. It is just only telling such a small portion of the story, especially for a platform like social, where social is often the first touch point. It's where people are doing their research. It's where they're discovering brands. And if they're not making that instantaneous purchase, social is not getting credit for the influence that it did have on the purchase. So again, probably having been in this side of the industry for so long and working on social, it is something I am incredibly passionate about, and that last click does not give social the credit that it deserves for the impact that it has on the customer journey and how it's influencing and how it's driving customer lifetime value and things like that as well. So these are some opportunities to really start to look at some more sophisticated measurement, brand lift studies, conversion lift studies, looking at some more unique KPIs like MER, things like that as well. And then last but not least, we kind of talked about this one, auditing your creative for semantic relevance. So again, that's that encoding. And talking about, your content audits, making sure that the messaging within it is different as well, and really focusing on those hooks and those captions and those formats to align with some of the cultural signals that might be going on in the time. Cool, and I saw some conversation going on. New fave, incremental ROAS. Yes, we do love a good incrementality study as well. But yeah, Megan, I can hand it over to you to talk about some of the changing rules.
Awesome. Yeah, Lauren just covered this, so I'll kind of fly through, but definitely I think rethinking your measurement is key, right? Not just looking at return on ad spend. And like I said earlier, not just looking at return on ad spend by ad or ad set. Track your media efficiency ratio. Is paid social truly driving incremental growth? If it's not, go back to those basics that Lauren covered earlier. Audit your audiences. Are you actually reaching new customers? How are you reaching them? What's resonating with them? And try to understand when paid social is actually adding new revenue versus just keeping the buying cycle going, right? Both have value, but if you're trying to measure it the same way based on both of those goals, one of those is going to fall short. So if we jump to the next slide too, we can kind of chat through smarter creative audits, right? Audit for semantic relevance, like Lauren said. Are you tapping into topics people are already excited about, or are you just recycling the same content Is it just the same flat lay image or product shot with some text overlay? Try to mix and match what you're leading with and understand what works best. And lead with content that matches user intent, right? If you have a very Gen Z or highly online customer, tap into some trends, do something fun. Don't be afraid to stray from the brand guidelines a little bit to try to reach your customer in a way that feels more human. And align your messaging with current search trends, right? Are you starting to see AI overviews pop up on the SEO side and you're ranking for certain questions that maybe you weren't getting visibility for before? That might be an indication that there's a new trend in your market emerging, and you can create content that addresses that on the social side. So, a great way to use data from other channels to sort of inform your strategy. And like Lauren mentioned earlier, media buying is really only half the job. The creative really is what drives us. So, if we tap into that next slide, really the three key ways that the best teams stay ahead are aligning content, affiliate, and paid social teams, again, to fill that content gap. A lot of you mentioned that you're lacking creative to do what you really need to do. And so pull in an affiliate team, whether it's ours, whether it's yours, tap into some creators to get some new content for your Meta and TikTok ads. Also, take a look at your structure. Make sure you don't have leaky buckets, right? You know exactly who you're reaching in each segment of your Meta ads or your TikTok ads. And then try to see if you have any missed opportunities, right? Could you add more creative into a specific ad set? Are your value props truly covered? So really those three things, I think if you're going to take anything away from this webinar, that's it.
Perfect. Thank you. So yes, a lot of exciting content today. We hope you guys really did find a lot of that interesting and informational and helpful. And like I kind of teased at the top of the presentation, we do know that Q4 is coming up quickly, and we do know that we are in an era of a lot of fast changes in the social ecosystem. And so we do want to be a help to you guys. So like I mentioned, we're going to be offering a free audit. So if you are interested in some more information about what that looks like, how myself, how my team can get into your accounts, really take a deep review as to what is going on. And what we'll bring back to you is not only some tactical insights as to what are some things that we would recommend changing, but we can also show you how some deeper strategies really could up level, change, and grow your social strategy, and therefore then also grow your revenue and your brand. So we're not focused just on efficiency, we're focused on growth as well. So it'll really be how can we take your investment to the next level so that we can make sure that you're getting a strong return on that investment and really make sure that you are on the leading edge of not just Meta and TikTok, but Pinterest, Snapchat, Twitter, LinkedIn. We have experience with it all. We can really help you understand where your investment might be most beneficial in order to understand where those opportunities to win might be. Again, completely free. So if you are interested, please just let us know. We'll be happy to get you connected with myself so that we can get everything set up for you.
Thank you so much, Lauren. I just want to tease our upcoming webinar on September 10th. We've got 7 revenue killers hiding in your holiday strategy. We'll cover Meta, Google, AI search, and email. This is a really good one ahead of the holiday season, so I hope to see you all there. And we also want to open this webinar up to any of the questions you might have. Oh, and of course, follow our our amazing subject matter experts on LinkedIn, Megan and Lauren, and then let's move into questions. Richard, if you're interested in an audit, just hit yes on the poll and we will reach out to you. Thank you. Okay, great. So if you have any questions, please drop them in the chat. Right now I have a couple. One question for both of you, uh, if if clients only have a few weeks to do something to optimize their holiday strategy, what are the top things that you might list that they would do? They should do.
So I was going to say, from my perspective, I'd probably focus on two of the big things that we talked about, right? Is one, just taking a quick look at your account structure. It may require a little bit of building in order to really lean into those AI tools. So again, if we're talking Meta, we're talking Advantage Plus. It might require a little bit of upfront work, but it actually will make your efforts a lot more simplistic because again, we are talking about consolidation now. So it is actually not that hard to rebuild because you're very actually likely rebuilding less and making your system more streamlined. So that is the number one thing I would do. And then two, it really would be your creative. Creative is going to be the winning input. And I know I saw some comments that, it can be hard. Creative resourcing, right, is incredibly difficult. So I'd say really look into options. Generative creative is really great, right? Like Meta itself has some really great built-in tools to help you create some diversity within your creative, even if you only have some, traditional product shots or things like that. It can help bring those to life in different ways. There are third-party tools out there, right, from a generative AI and creative perspective that can help bring movement and video to your product shots as well. And then creators, such an untapped resource, I think, for so many people. Um, both TikTok and Meta have basically their own creator marketplaces where you can go through, look at those who are open to having partnerships with brands, give you an idea on kind of what pricing might be or what you might be able to expect out of that. In cases like that, you can even look towards smaller creators, right? If budget is tight, because in those cases, while that organic influence is great, if you are also just looking for creative content to be able to put within your paid programs, you can almost start to use creators as a creative pipeline. That's something that we also do help a lot of our clients with, is unlocking that. It's a balance between finding sometimes creators that have that really influential following and then creators who quite frankly just make good creative. And even if they don't have the biggest following, they're going to give you highly impactful creative that once amplified by your paid dollars is going to be incredibly effective at driving revenue. So tap into creators. They're probably your best asset in terms of breaking down that barrier that is creative resourcing.
Awesome. Megan, anything?
Yeah, I think the simplest thing I can take away from what Lauren just mentioned and what a lot of our clients are trying to do now is understand what worked for you last Q4. So take a look at all of your creative from Q4 of last year. What really drove the most, whether it's revenue, highest click-through rate, whatever KPI you're focused on, and try to replicate that and create multiple versions of that creative to start testing now. If you're running promotions for Labor Day, if you're running promotions in October, try to understand that faster this year. So take what worked last year, run a couple different versions of it, and then you'll have a really good understanding of what's going to work for you in Q4 this year.
Great. I've got another question about revenue leaks. So when you're performing these audits, what are the top revenue leaks that you're consistently spotting?
I'd say one of the big ones does come down to audiences. That's sometimes where we see a lot of gaps. It does require a very close audit to make sure that you're not missing any gaps in terms of audience overlap, where you might be cannibalizing yourself in terms of putting competing audiences up against each other. And then you might also be losing dollars, to our earlier point, where if you're really wanting to focus on new customer acquisition, like that is a huge goal, but you're not properly excluding warm or even worse existing customers, you are actually not going to be achieving the goal. It might look like a great ROAS and platform, but again, when you're looking at that holistic business impact of your paid media efforts, something like that, some misses in audience structure can really be a huge gap in terms of achieving the goals that you want to, for your business, especially based on growth and not just efficiency.
Yeah, I'll say too, I think one of the things I often see is being too conversion focused. And so you spend way too much in retargeting. And because you're focusing all of your budget in retargeting, your poor existing audiences are seeing your ads 3 to 5 to I've seen as bad as 10 times a day, because your frequencies are just really, really high. So make sure you're balancing your budgets, right? You can't spend all of your budget in retargeting, even if your goal is to hit a specific return on ad spend. You'll need to start smaller, right? So making sure that that bucket is full enough of people, that for you to be able to spend enough in that bucket, you have a good amount of people in there that you've driven in from cold audiences or from new customer marketing. So frequency can be a really leaky bucket. You may think, oh, wow, I'm getting a really great return on ad spend from this audience, but you're actually just hitting the same people 3 to 5 times a day.
That is such a great point. I am so fast to click like ad is not relevant so that I never have to see it again. Any advice for Christiana in the chat? She's saying that they haven't found creators that help drive sales and essentially TikTok is dead for them. Their CEO isn't interested in investing any more money into it, so she's asking how she can change his mind.
Yeah, I'd say there is a lot that goes into a creator content strategy or an influencer strategy. And so we do, one of the teams that sits underneath me is a full affiliate team that does focus purely on creator outreach, vetting sample requests, things like that. And there is so much that goes into that, right? It's not just about follower count. It's about actually going in and pre-checking the quality of the content they've created, when you're looking at things, especially if you're in TikTok, for example, when you're looking at their GMV generated, right? If you're using that as one of your gauges of success as to whether this creator might drive success for you, it's really important to see, are they consistently driving GMV, or did they maybe just have one viral video that popped and that is what's skewing their numbers? Because if you're just looking at it at top line, you're making a bet that you might be 1 out of 100 successful videos for them versus going to a creator where that revenue generated is much more consistent across all of their videos. So that is something that our teams look at really closely, is a few different layers deep when vetting who we are sending samples to. And then I'd say another deep piece that goes into that, whether you are doing it from an affiliate model or whether you're doing it more from a creator or a creator content or influencer model, is the creative brief that you're sending them as well, right? A lot of times the content that is going to be put out by a creator is also somewhat only as good as the inputs that you are giving them, right? So helping them to understand, what do you want the vibe of the video to be? Where and how should it be shot? Should it be more lightly lit? Should it be more darkly lit? Do you want more, depending on the type of product, usage and application of the product, or do you want it to be more of a product shot in a static format? What types of value props should they be focusing on? What should the messaging be? What is kind of the, I always joke, I'm like, what is the theme of the week that the creator should be focusing on, right? So that we can make sure that that we are kind of bringing forth consistent and seamless messaging with our creators, with our brand efforts as well. So it'll be a lot of the input that you put out to help produce the quality of the output.
Thank you both so much. Amazing information during the webinar and after. We're over time, so I know that you two are very busy. I'm going to let you jump. Thank you for everyone who has attended. Please check out our webinars on our on gofishdigital.com. And thank you, thank you, thank you. And you'll be getting some resources from us, the recording of this webinar. Over the next couple of days. The recording you'll get tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. your time. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.